What would you do if strangers in suits grabbed your kid's wrist in your own front yard, flashing fake badges and demanding to know if she had permission to play? That's the nightmare I walked into one sunny afternoon, and let me tell you, it lit a fire in me that turned our quiet suburb into a battleground for truth. My name's Tom Harper, a retired IRS fraud buster, and this is the story of how I marched two imposters out of my life and our neighborhood like the frauds they were, sparking a reckoning nobody saw coming. It was a perfect spring day, the kind where the sun paints everything golden and the air smells like fresh-cut grass. My granddaughter, Emma, all of 10 years old, was out front, her giggles bouncing off our white picket fence as she chased imaginary adventures across the lawn. From the porch, I sipped my coffee, soaking in the joy of her carefree spirit. Our yard, bursting with tulips and daffodils, was her kingdom, a safe haven where nothing could touch her. Or so I thought. Then, like a storm cloud blotting out the sun, two men in dark suits appeared. They strode through our gate with the kind of swagger that screams trouble, their polished shoes clicking on the pavement. They looked wrong, out of place against the backdrop of our sleepy street, like wolves in a sheep pen. They claimed to be HOA enforcers sent to maintain order. Their voices were smooth but cold, and their eyes had a glint that set my nerves on edge. Before I could process it, they zeroed in on Emma, demanding to know if she had permission to play in her own yard. The question hit like a slap. Permission? For a kid to play in her grandpa's front yard? Emma froze, her bright eyes clouding with confusion, her little body stiff as a deer caught in headlights. The air thickened, the laughter replaced by a tension so heavy it felt like the world was holding its breath. I stepped forward, my heart pounding, but before I could speak, one of them, the taller one with a scar above his eyebrow, moved faster. In a single, deliberate stride, he closed the gap and grabbed Emma's wrist, his fingers tight enough to make her wince. Time stopped. The sight of that man's hand on my granddaughter's delicate wrist ignited something primal in me, a fury that burned away the calm of the afternoon. Emma's tiny gasp was a knife to my chest, and in that moment, I wasn't just a grandpa. I was a man who'd spent 30 years untangling lies, sniffing out fraud, and bringing down those who thought they could hide behind fake authority. These guys? They weren't HOA. They were imposters, and I'd be damned if they'd scare my girl on my watch. Get your hands off her, I growled, my voice low but sharp enough to cut glass. The man's head snapped up, his sneer faltering as he met my eyes. I didn't wait for compliance. Years of wrestling with tax cheats and con artists had taught me how to move fast and think faster. In 3 steps, I was on him, my hand clamping down on his arm with a force that surprised even me. I twisted, hard, and he let go of Emma with a grunt, stumbling back. The second guy lunged forward, but I was ready, sidestepping and grabbing his wrist, pinning it behind him in a move I hadn't used since my IRS days. Emma ran to the porch, her eyes wide but safe, and I turned my full attention to the men. Their badges, cheap, glinting in the sunlight, were as fake as their authority. Up close, I saw the telltale signs, uneven lettering, no official seal, the kind of props you'd find in a thrift store. My blood boiled. These weren't just bullies. They were predators, preying on the trust of a quiet neighborhood. And they'd picked the wrong yard. Start talking, I said, my grip tightening. Who are you, and what the hell do you think you're doing? Their bravado cracked, their eyes darting like cornered animals. The tall one muttered something about HOA regulations, but his voice shook, and the lie fell apart before it left his mouth. I didn't need a confession to know they were frauds. I'd seen their kind before, men who thrived on intimidation, banking on people's fear of authority. Not today. I could have called the cops right then, but something bigger was at play. These guys weren't just a problem for me, they were a threat to everyone on this street. And fate, it seemed, had a plan. Our annual HOA meeting was that evening, the perfect stage to unmask these clowns. With a firm grip on their arms, I marched them down the street, their protests fading into pathetic grumbles. Neighbors peeked out from windows, sensing the storm brewing. They didn't know it yet, but this was about to be a reckoning. The community center was packed, the air buzzing with small talk about lawn care and mailbox colors. That chatter died the second I walked in, dragging the two imposters behind me. All eyes locked on us, confusion rippling through the crowd. I didn't waste a second. "These men," I said, my voice booming, "aren't HOA. They're frauds. They grabbed my granddaughter's wrist in my own yard, flashing fake badges and acting like they own this neighborhood." Gasps filled the room. The HOA head, Mr. Sullivan, stood at the front, his face a mask of fake surprise that didn't fool me for a second. I pointed at the men, who squirmed under the crowd's glare. "They've been bullying us, hiding behind lies. And I'm betting Emma's not the only one they've scared." That was all it took. The dam broke. Mrs. Larson, a soft-spoken widow, stood up, her voice trembling but fierce. "They came to my house last week, demanding proof I lived there while I was watering my garden." Mr. Thompson, a retired veteran, slammed his cane on the floor, his face red. "They told me my porch swing was against code." "Code? I built that swing myself." One by one, neighbors spilled their stories. A kid's bike rack called illegal. A demand for a permit for a backyard barbecue. Each tale was a match, and the room was tinder. The imposters shrank, their fake badges useless under the weight of the truth. Sullivan tried to stammer an excuse, but the crowd wasn't HOA-ing it. His nervous glances gave him away he'd known something, maybe even let these guys operate to keep his own hands clean. The room turned on him, voices rising, demanding answers. This wasn't just about two fake cops anymore. It was about a system that let them slink through the cracks, about a community that had been too quiet for too long. By the time the real police arrived, the imposters were done, their lies exposed, and their fake badges confiscated. Sullivan slunk out, his authority in tatters. But the real VY Tory wasn't their arrest, it was what happened next. Our neighborhood woke up. Fences that had separated us became bridges. We started a watch group, shared stories over coffee, and vowed to never let anyone bully us again. Emma, my brave girl, learned something too. Her eyes, once clouded with fear, now sparkled with a quiet strength, a lesson in standing tall. That day, we didn't just take down two frauds. We took back our home. And let me tell you, there's nothing more powerful than a neighborhood that's had enough. So, I asked you again, what would you do if someone tried to steal your peace? Because we fought, and we won.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story on Store of Good Stories. If this story touched your heart or made you think, don't forget to hit like and share the video to spread this positive message to more people. And if this is your first time here, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of the meaningful stories we share every week. Your support is the biggest motivation for Store of Good Stories to keep bringing heartfelt and valuable stories to you. See you in the next video.